Oh, shit. Dumbass.
Why did you do the chance? After 40, I got to use a strict testosterone. Even I couldn't stay.
This is the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Happy Christmas week, friends. Happy Christmas
week. We finally made it. We are to that the most wonderful time of the year, so they say. Right?
That's what all the posters and all the songs say. Now, whether or not, I mean, it's got to get better, right? You figure that other than the fact this whole Corona thing, did you see the deal today? I don't want to start off with the negative news that the Corona strand over in Britain and in England over there is starting to mutate, and their little vaccine they got's not working.
Ooh, well, I'll tell you, there's lots of people that are taking it here, and we could throw that out as the poll question, is how many people are going to take that, but we probably won't do that. We'll save that for another one of those Revved Up Sports Show After Dark type of programs, which we do want to get one of those put together, by the way. We kind of did one of those over at Pensacola, and we know it was After Dark because that was a dark video. So, yes, thank you for the feedback. we know it was dark, but you got to realize you were in a campground and one of those things. We weren't quite geared for everything. So, yes.
And bad cell service didn't help out either.
Bad cell service, and there was a lot of beer in us at the time as well. So, that certainly didn't help as well. Great program coming up. Ray Allen Kohalik will join us coming up at 7 o'clock. And then we talk to Don Painter. Man, the myth, the legend right there. Two of them, the man, the myth, the legends right there.
Yeah, a couple of really big hot shoes on dirt. Ray Allen's been running up and running all kind of different dirt cars, so we'll get a good scope of the position where dirt racing is right now. And then obviously Don Painter, a friend of the show, so to speak, been around racing a long time. I know a former sponsor of myself with the High Five, so good to have Don on the show to kind of see what his plans are for 2021.
Painter's been around probably longer than racing. I mean, that dude, and that's a guy, one of the things that when I was talking to Don the other day, I was like, it may have to be a two-parter because Don's one of those guys where we can obviously talk about the dirt track success, but at the same time, we can go in there and, I mean, Don's done a hell of a job on the pavement also. I mean, dating back many, many years. So anyway, I thought that we thought that'd be a special treat to get Don on here along with Ray Allen, and I think that's going to be some great conversation. This is your Christmas special, Bobby, and one of the things we threw it out early in the week, it is, what do you want Santa Claus to bring to your racetrack? And that's, I mean, that can be a specific racetrack, and please keep it clean. Ain't no need to bash anybody. We're saying, what would you like to see? Or, whether it be, for asphalt, do you want this, or dirt, do you want that? It can be specific or broad.
I mean, I would say that I'd like to see a schedule. Santa Claus to bring a schedule, but there should be plenty of tracks working with us to where we'll be able to get the schedules out to the masses. So stay tuned, working on that with a couple of different racetracks. But I would say that I would just like to see, I would like for Santa Claus to bring me a good competitive season.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I want to see. I don't want to see one guy just start dominating and kicking ass and taking names. While that driver would feel good about doing that themselves, it's not something that I particularly want to see. I guess that goes back to the announcer in me, to where we like to see good, solid. People don't understand when the racing is good, it makes the announcer job just a whole hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one of the things I have to say that I was extremely happy. I was extremely happy that I saw, and we'll talk about Texas, but I was really happy that I saw that last week there was a meeting between the folks at Christi Motorsports Park, Five Flags, Montgomery, Nashville Fairgrounds. All of these folks are working to unite to try to do something for pro late models. And when you get to asphalt racing, the pro late models, that's one of those classes that can kind of drive stuff. They're working to, their plan is to be where you can run at any of those 4 tracks at any given time, or run, a CRA, JEGS race, whatever it may be, trying to make it easier. And I think that's what I would like to see Santa Claus do, is get all of these people together. I think, Bobby, our challenges here in Texas with dirt track racing is the scheduling. You mentioned schedules, but man, there's so many damn tracks right now. It's all regional, and Texas is its own damn country to figure out. You got Cotton Bowl and Edna, I guess. South Texas and Edna. I mean, South Texas and 37. That's a bitch right there.
I mean, it's a hard struggle between those 3 tracks. Obviously, with the will of the promoters to want to work together is probably the biggest key to that. And I think if you're able to have promoters that work together to where, you can run once a month or every other weekend or something along those lines, like, you don't want to schedule on top of each other, because that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work out good for anybody.
Yeah, that's really the key to be able to do that. And of course, the beauty of it with dirt track racing is you do have the sanctions that are in place, and that makes it a lot easier. And again, we'll work to continue to follow that. I know there's a lot of folks that have asked about a short track schedule for Houston, and I mean, I can tell you, because I'm in the know in that deal there. And honestly, what is happening there is Gina is working obviously with the folks there at H&P, trying to get that put together, because H&P is its own little entity there. I mean, Dean Baker runs that place, and there's a drag racetrack there that does extremely well, that has dates and has to operate as well. So trying to get all of that figured out. But Gina, not to be confused with Dean, is in the works as well. Yeah, maybe we'll just call her Dina from now on. Is in the works. I mean, she's working with the Modifieds of Mayhem people. She's working with Five Flags, trying to get stuff put together. So I'll just tease you with that. There are things to come. So just sit tight and wait on that. Enjoy that March practice date, because I'll tell you, once you get there and start practicing, you're going to be racing pretty soon thereafter.
That's the rumor I heard too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So what the first weekend in March, isn't it?
March the 6th is the date, I think, that we are supposed to be promoting. We're all over it over here, I'll tell you. We are just all over everything. I believe it is March the 6th is when that first event there is. That is your first practice. And, of course, all of this is so contingent on, I mean, where are we going to be in March is the whole thing. I mean, we had grand ideas and big old plans for 2020, and of course, that got steamrolled a little bit by this little virus that we're working with right now. So, but that is the current plan. But Gina's doing stuff where she is. I mean, she is in constant communication with Tim Bryant, who, by the way, a little nugget I'll drop for you, by the way, runs the Southern Super Series and is also a big part of the Pro Late Alan Turner Pro Late Model Series, as well as the Modifieds of Mayhem, and that is a class in Houston. So I'll just leave it at that. How about Cotton Bowl getting their stuff out, and a couple of World of Outlaw races there, and bringing in another series, a Lone Star Stock Car Tour that's making things happen at Page.
It's interesting to see the way that shakes out, because it's still going to be cold in February, with the way that some of these series try to work out and get their icebreakers in. I think that's still a big race, but just to get this stuff in a time, like I'm so interested to see about how do the midweek shows going to work over there. I think that's the thing for me that I'm interested in the most, is to see how the fan count and the fan reaction. I don't think it's really going to matter for the World of Outlaws, because they kind of have their own built-in fan base. People will travel from Houston and all of that. I think that's on a Saturday and a Sunday show over there. But the Stock Car Tour, being a midweek race, I'll be interested to see how that shakes out in terms of getting the people into the grandstands.
And that really is, friends, where you want your racing. I mean, you want your racing. You want your racing on demand. You want it anytime. These folks are going out and they're acquiring series and bringing series in and giving you opportunities to get to the racetrack. I mean, I know folks have regular jobs and work, and pandemics are a bitch and everything else, but here's your opportunity. I mean, you're asking for it, so here it is right here. So this is where you go out and make the best of this, and I mean, show out. Show out. It's really, really about the only way that I can express it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants big shows. Big shows are coming in early, hot and heavy, so that'd be the time to. Anytime the racetrack's open, you got to support it, whether it's in February or in July. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing. Although I don't think we'll have the dust problem in February that we do in July and August.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be huge there, and it's going to be an early start.
It's on a Monday. Lone Star's on a Monday.
Lone Star's on a Monday. All right, thank you, James. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. So looking forward to that. Congratulations there to CBS. Looks like a locked and loaded schedule. And as we said, I mean, we're waiting. I think Owen probably is going to jump on and want to help us with his schedule release. Everything that's happening there. South Texas is still waiting for the full schedule there. I mean, I know there's lots of plans there, and there's full-fledged efforts, and the Gulf Coast is the Texas Gulf Coast is going to be between Edna now with the new ownership group there with Mr. Beard, and with what Stevie and the group are doing in South Texas. That's going to be a hotbed down there, and all of that will trickle up. And 37 is going to be hot and heavy. Johnny Torr is doing his thing there, so I think the future is extremely bright. And with Texas, with Asphalt, coming to life, if you can get all your dates figured out, I think that's the biggest challenge there. And that's where we go back to, Bobby. In a perfect world, if you owned your own racetrack, all of this shit's irrelevant, honestly, at this point.
Well, I think if you own your own racetrack, it's easier to be the one that makes the dates first, right? It's always easier to have the dates on the 1st and the 15th because that's payday weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best time to have it. But, in terms of trying to – it's – nowadays, it's not like it was back in the Longhorn days, right, where it was just a certain group of people you could appeal to, and that was all there was to do in Austin for your certain demographic, right? The rednecks and the cowboys, they love going to Longhorn on a Saturday night.
Yep.
Same thing in Corpus. Corpus didn't matter what night Corpus raced. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. There was a group of people that was hardcore going to go there no matter what. Now there's a hell of a lot of stuff to do in Austin, even though we don't have a racetrack anymore. That's probably part of the reason the racetracks don't exist. But in terms of Houston, there's so much to do in Houston, it becomes an entertainment value. Same thing in Corpus. There's more and more stuff to do in Corpus. More and more. Edna, now granted, Owen's in a good spot down there because Edna's about the only thing to do in Edna is a movie theater and a racetrack.
Oh, is there a theater?
I think so.
Okay.
Might be over by the America's Best.
Oh, my God. If it's over there, there's cockroaches in that theater. That was friends. If you're going to go stay in Edna, be careful with the America's Best. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. We've stayed in worse.
Yeah, there's been worse, but I knew it was bad when I got there early, and I had booked this thing, on the revved up budget that we have. That explains obviously the America's Best. Speaking of revved up budget, as you always say.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it is you just being a cheap ass, but I mean, there's that.
So go rolling up into the America's Best, and they couldn't find my room, and they finally figured everything out. They said you needed one bed, right? I'm like, no, I needed two. They said, well, there's not two beds. You're going to have to do it with one. The rest is for the After Dark show.
That's right.
I think Joyce knows. Joyce was all over that weekend.
That's right. Joyce is having a good time that weekend.
I don't know if Joyce remembers that weekend, but yeah. So it comes down to it gets tough because to try to cram all of these dates into one calendar, and I really do see that challenge there. Where you were talking about, Bobby, the old days, you had Corpus and San Antonio and Austin on the pavement side. It was actually. The way it worked back then, there were just so many cars. It was much more local back then, I think, because Austin had its own group, and they were Austin.
Mm-hmm,
and you may have a couple that trickled to San Antonio on Saturday, and quite frankly, Corpus didn't need San Antonio or Austin because they had their whole damn bunch over there.
They did. The Corpus group. It was more of a show when the Corpus crowd came to San Antonio or came to Longhorn. That's when you knew stuff was up. But a lot of the times the Corpus guys would go and, and change all their stuff and run in San Antonio. That's
Right.
when you saw Joey Heineman and some of those guys try to come up and run with the late model shows. Tommy Temple ran late models, even some Romco stuff back in the day. So those were the times that really it's weird to think that it was more segregated, but it was more successful.
Don't say that word.
Well, but it was still, you're right. Probably needed a better word to describe it, but
I'm just kidding.
There were more defined groups.
I know
but yet
exactly
racing
what you
was
mean.
more successful
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. I got a text the other day, somebody telling me that I should open CC Speedway. And I'm like, well, number one, I have no money. And number two, I think it's been sold. And the plan that I've heard for it is, probably not conducive to racing. But it.
I mean, if it's an indoor karting venue, maybe.
yeah. Would you like a K1 Speed in Corpus? I know how to franchise one, or I've been told how to franchise one of those. But it. Again, you guys tell us, what do you want Santa Claus or whoever, Poncho Claus, to bring your track or to bring racing in general? I mean, tell us what you're thinking, because we've got promoters that are listening to that. I mean, don't try to be the promoter and don't slam the promoter, but what do you think we want? I mean, I know when we first posted about what does Santa Claus need to bring, I know there were folks that were posting stuff, and I mean, let's talk about that throughout the night. But the CC thing, and that actually came up 2 or 3 times to me last week, and I'm like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Somebody tell me different. I heard it got sold, and I heard it's going to get demolished, and it's going to become a warehouse district. And I mean, that would make sense over there on Flato and everything there. That's what's become there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless somebody can tell me different, that's all I know.
No, I mean, that's what we've heard. Both of us have heard that rumor back and forth, and it seems more like when you do soil samples at a racetrack, which we both heard, that it's not really conducive of it staying a racetrack. No. So we don't want to talk about the demise of CC Speedway. I mean, if you're a race fan in Corpus, there is a racetrack down there that you can support with Stevie and the gang over at South Texas Speedway. So, it would be nice to have more than one asphalt track outside of Houston, but at the same time, right now, just survival of the fittest, and South Texas is what's still remaining down there. And
I did see that with that initial post that we made about the Santa Claus thing for the racetracks and so forth, that somebody else said something about asphalt, another asphalt track, and that's a great point, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I'd love to have another one, like maybe in Liberty Hill. That'd be a great place for it, but it's I mean, right now we are struggling to have one, and I mean, when we get to a point where the pits are full in Houston and we're having to turn people, or they're having to turn people away and having B mains and all this, hell yeah, let's get something else going. But it was like the whole thing with Marion. I mean, I think at this time last year, I think the Marion thing was still hot and heavy at this time, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of folks are like, oh yeah, I can't wait for Marion to open. I'm like, for one, I mean, I never saw anything with that told me it was going to be, set in stone. And for another thing, you want 2 tracks with no cars?
Not really. I mean, 2 tracks with no cars means one of the 2 tracks, if not both of the 2 tracks, are going to end up going away. It's very rare where you see a track that has lots of car count just randomly decide to just shut down, and it's usually not because the promoter wants it to shut down. It's usually some type of external variables or something. You've seen it a lot, especially you saw it in Nashville, but there was external variables with the promoters and stuff like that not getting along with the fair board, and you've seen it before here in Central Texas, with CTS abruptly shutting down. San Antonio Speedway years ago with Terry Dickerson abruptly shutting down. So that's not what you want to see, but I don't know. I like Owen right there.
There it is right there. That is a message of the day. Let's put dirt on Houston for 6 weeks, make enough money, and build 3 more. Owen, if we could scrape the asphalt off and reapply it, there's dirt under there. Mm-hmm. That was a dirt joint. But it's so, I mean, there's so many variables to all of this, and what is the ideal situation? I mean, what and that's like where the promoter of the year thing got so complicated for our committee. It's like this track does this really well, and this track does this really well, and this other track does this really well, and to condense all of that and put it all together and have the ideal situation. We're not going to have the ideal. No track is going to have the ideal situation. I mean, that's the bottom line. But it you just keep hammering away. You just keep hammering away and hoping.
Well, you got to just try away. I mean, obviously Not every fan is going to like everything that you do, right? It's just like any other business. Usually all it takes is the one person complaining about the cold hot dog to just start a rant on Facebook that kind of ends up, making it rough for the promoter. But, you got to go in. Not every fan's going to like what you do. Not every fan likes what Owen does. Not every fan likes every move that Gina makes. Even the guys up at RPM, not everybody likes the moves that they make. So it's just so we've talked about it on both shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no medium ground anymore. You either have to love something or you have to hate it. You can't be in the middle anymore. You got to be on polar opposite sides.
Mm-hmm. Couple of posts there. Aaron Brungot checks in and he says, bring the fans out. I mean, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of that is, if this thing got lifted tomorrow, and they said, okay, full capacity, everybody go, it's still back to the fans. It's still back to, folks say, well, the track. I see a lot of folks that tell me, well, the track doesn't promote, the track doesn't do this. And all of the people that tell me this, number one, weren't at the track that last race, and number two, knew that race date was on.
Well,
so it's like, hell, why they got to promote? You knew and you didn't show up.
Well, it's like preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk to the race fans that are going to be there. You have that core group that doesn't matter what date it is, they're going to be there, whether it's running on a Monday night, a Thursday night, Friday, Saturday,
Sure,
Sunday.
yeah.
I mean, look at Waco. Waco runs every night of the week. Hell, Owen runs every night of the week, damn near. And so it's one of those where it's like it becomes the fans' responsibility to support the track, which they do, but it's also part of the track's responsibility to reach outside that. It's easy to reach inside the cookie jar when it's in the kitchen. It's another thing to try to go to somebody else's house and reach into the cookie jar.
And, a lot of folks are like, oh, they need to do radio advertising. And trust me, let me tell you, I have tried to sell radio advertising. It's tough. It's not cheap. It's not easy. And the main thing for a promoter is it's not cheap. And these guys are on a shoestring budget a lot of times, going from race to race. I've seen a couple of notes there about Bristol on this thing on the Facebook post. A couple of notes there. Congratulations to all the guys that are going to be going to the Dirt Track Nationals. It's good to see those posts with a lot of our guys that are going there. They're going to make the big show. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity right there. And you go. That's badass right there.
It's going to be a challenge, though. Bristol's fast as an asphalt track. Apparently, it's going to be wicked crazy and fast as a dirt track.
How smart are they, though, at Bristol? Because one of the things that we've talked about, mainly on the Saturday, well, I think we talked about it here too, but on the Saturday show, it's like, man, how are you going to just go throw dirt on that thing and run, Xfinity and Cup and trucks? Well, they're doing this the week before. So there you go. That, my friends, is good marketing and promoting. That is a kick-ass idea right there.
It really is a good idea because then you're gonna get your carryover. We've seen more carryover between the short tracks and NASCAR in the last year to 18 months, and we have in a long time. Say what you will about the reason it is. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe all running local short tracks, or you could even tie it into having the races close together, like you have your Dirt Nationals, there the week before the Cup race. If they could find a way to get that televised too, that would be great.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to get that on. Of course, there'll be streaming services and so forth that'll have it. But that's super late model. $50,000 to win.
Really?
Yes, sir. $50,000 to win on Saturday. We may have to ask Ray Allen Kaholnick here in just a little bit about that one. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
That's worth the tow. Bristol also in the news today because possibly Bristol going to assume the Bristol Group, which, of course, the Bristol Group is Speedway Motorsports, possibly assuming the fairgrounds to get the fairgrounds back with legitimate, true racing by 2022. Oh, by the way, Texas Motor Speedway is promoting the race at COTA that's coming up in May of 2021. So there you go.
Yeah, we've seen it work. Well, we think it's going to work. Working down here at COTA, but hopefully it works very successfully. But they're going to try to. The only thing that I see that's weird is I want to see. Granted, and I know the Nashville Super Speedway is not in the heart of Nashville like the fairgrounds is. I totally understand and I totally get that. I'd be wanting to see how many fans show up to the Nashville Super Speedway, part of this new 2021 schedule, before I start investing a boatload of cash into an old gym like the fairgrounds.
Yeah. Great point there from Joyce. And me being an older race fan, I can totally understand that. Publications for the racetrack is the key to getting fans there. If you don't advertise, anybody knows. And that's where I think that is where you can go back to digital advertising now, to where it used to be you could do the newspaper stuff and you could do whatever any of that may be. Now the digital stuff is a little more manageable. Radio advertising is tough. I mean, I'm here to tell you, especially if you go to, I mean, no offense to our competitor with the horn, if you go to Clear Channel, it's gonna be a little costlier. If you want to know what it costs at the horn, revvedupsportshow@gmail.com, because we can tell you. But it's yes, that is very much important. But I think a lot of it too. This is where we go back to the teams and the drivers to be able to have the opportunity to get out there and race. I mean, you are a salesperson now, like it or not. You are a salesperson.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's everybody's job to sell racing now, and it's I think that it's a little easier. You think about it this way. I don't know how many UNT stuff you get now. But like today, in my email, I got a nice email from the president of UTSA talking about how proud he was that the student athletes were representing the school, and he was happy about the bowl game and all that. Then at the very bottom, if you're happy too and would like to support a student athlete, here's the link to donate to the student athletic fund, right? And it's almost the same way where you can, if you get on a mailing list, if you get on a decent mailing list, then you can have the track send out the digital stuff. That is not quite as expensive. Now, granted, I guess it's 44 cents to mail a stamp, but hell, how many times you got some kind of advertisement in the mail, you just toss it off to the side.
Yeah. Handwritten letter, guys. That's super important. Steve Sims, I want Santa Claus to bring me a new race car. Oh, come on, Steve. Don't bullshit a bullshitter, buddy. I know better than that.
Wait, isn't he the one that bought Adam Hall's car?
That's what he told me.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Well, Steve, there you go, buddy. I hope that wasn't a secret.
Yeah, right. Hope not.
But yeah. Keep on sending those for your track, for you, for your team, for whatever. For for NASCAR. I don't care. Aaron, tracks have big money shows, and they rarely make the track any money. Advertising is super expensive, and that's exactly what we're saying. And a lot of tracks, I mean, go the Facebook route. I mean, many have, and you see tracks all across the country where they do with the Facebook ad or whatever it may be. They do an incredible job, and this really is the best reach. This really is the best reach, because this is what people do all day. They sit here and they stare at these phones and tablets and all these other things, and you put this in front of them and you build the program the right way, and you're going to get the eyeballs and the ears that you want.
Yeah, that's why they do all the live look-ins, right? Before they do a pay-per-view, they do the live look-ins with the qualifying or the heat races, or hell, even a lot of times we'll end up watching practice at some podunk racetrack in Idaho because they do the right Facebook live stream. So I guess the only, the advertising is expensive, except for here. We could make an advertising budget that works for you, or advertising plan that works for you on a budget that works for you too. We don't have that promo spot anymore, but
right there.
But that's RevvedUpSportsShow@gmail.com, as we try to self-promote, because we're the kings of shameless self-promotion.
New budget for 2020 or 2021. New goals. Make money.
That's right. It gets harder and harder every day.
Sustain. Merry Christmas, everybody. I don't know if we'll get to that, but this is your Merry Christmas edition, as we'll have a couple of really good dudes that are jumping on here in just a little bit. Ray Allen should be joining us shortly. We'll talk to him, and then Don Painter's going to jump on. But it really is. And when we throw out, what do you want for your track? What do you want Santa Claus, the reindeer, and everybody else to bring? I mean, it's not a forum to publicly bash and thank you all, because you're not. I mean, you're not doing that. It's just great ideas right there, and you never know where you may hit on a nugget that a track may employ in that I mean, there were silly things. I mean, like at the CTS time when we were there, when we went really outrageous and spent a lot of money on concerts. That worked and brought a lot of people in. So it I don't know. You just never know. It's all about ideas. It's all about feedback, and it's all about positive feedback and reinforcement that I think will help a lot for racetracks.
I think a lot of it's the positive reinforcement, but really you got to. It's that way with any business, right? You just got to throw shit on the wall to see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's as simple as it does. Sometimes a concert at Cotton Bowl Speedway may not work, but a concert at H&P might.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. A Rage concert, a Techno might work better in Houston than it will, in Edna, but you run a bull ring inside Edna,
yeah,
that would end up potentially making money. Where running a bullfight and some bull riding inside Houston may not work either.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's all about ideas, and that's what we want from you, because those promoters are going to jump on and they're going to see this stuff, and I mean, you never know, something might stick. And of course, we do appreciate the promoters, because that is super duper. Hold on a second. Super duper important as we continue rolling along here, getting ready for 2021. Now, what we are going to do now is we're going to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline, and we talked about our Christmas edition. We're talking to some of the great drivers. And we got a good one on deck right now. It is the man himself. Got to see him in Victory Lane at Edna a couple of weeks ago. It is Ray Allen Kahalnik. Ray, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are y'all?
Absolutely doing well, man. You guys holiday ready? Holiday ready out your way?
Man, I don't know if you're ever just really holiday ready. I can tell you my fiance and all of my family. Well, I should say all the women anyway. They're all into that. You know, that's their favorite part of the year. And you know, for the men in my family, you know, this is off season, and we don't ever quit going racing. So it's just rebuild time right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ray, you raced a lot of things that Roddy and I both know. Obviously, you've been around dirt racing way longer than we have. But let's talk about how you got started, because as far as I know, you've raced everything from sprint cars to late models to limited modifieds. It feels like you've raced a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so I was born, you know, in a racing family. My papa and grandma both were, you know, still they were legends, you know, in their days, and you know, it just grew from there. You know, they had 3 kids, and you know, between my dad, my uncle, and my aunt, and believe it or not, all 3 of them raced, and
Wow.
and down to me, and every one of the grandkids, you know, have all raced something at some point in time in our lives. So I'm I'm the only one that really just took racing, you know, as deep and hard as my grandparents, and I took it as far as I could.
Yeah, Ray Allen, it gets so hard. I mean, no matter what form of motorsports you're in, man, you just can't get away, can you? Especially when it's like it's all around you. I mean, even like right now, you were talking about in the off season, there really is no off season.
No, there's no off season from racing ever, really, as far as that goes. I mean, for me, I live, eat, breathe shit racing. That's all I want to do. That's all I think about. You know, I've given up, you know, I guess the dream part of it is doing it, you know, for a living, like I got to do for, you know, quite a few years. But I never really got to go, you know, full board nationally and do a national circuit type deal. But I have raced all over the nation and raced, you know, with the top, you know, guys in the world of outlaws, and the ASCS national tours. I've won, you know, multiple 6-time ASCS Gulf South region championships and you know, local racetrack championships. And I've if that thing has got a steering wheel and a gas pedal and it's raced on dirt, I promise you I've probably raced in that class at some point in time, and I have a win in every class of car that I've ever raced, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
Well, that's one of the things we asked the sprint car drivers that come on the show now, like what is it about the sprint cars? Like it just seems like you either have to be exceptionally talented or a little bit borderline crazy to get in one of those 410 sprint cars or whatever the size that it is that the Gulf South Series runs. What is it that is the ever appealing idea behind the sprint cars for a driver, in your opinion?
Really and honestly, what attracted me to it from the time I was a little kid. I mean, I had always wanted to be a sprint car driver from the time I was 5 years old, which was the first time that I ever seen a you know, full-size sprint car. Mm-hmm. And it's just the speed. I mean, those things are as fast as they get. I mean, nothing on dirt is as fast as a sprint car. The late models and stuff are you know, fairly close. But downright speed, I mean, there's just nothing that touches them. And you have to, you know, maneuver and think so fast, and you have to actually plan, you know, your race out more along the lines about a lap ahead, you know, to try to plan out your race. And so that's actually honestly what has helped me progress more and the other classes is because I've been so used to going so much faster that when I get back into other classes, it's almost just to me like sitting in a recliner and watching TV at the house. It's and not meaning that in a bad way.
No.
I'm not downgrading any of it. I don't give a shit if you're running 45 miles an hour on a dirt track. 45 miles an hour can be a handful at times.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's just they're fast. You got to be on your toes. You got to be quick thinking, and everything's on a split second. I mean, things change. Just like playing a chess game.
Yeah.
And it's just that's pretty much the gist of it. Is mostly speed.
Yep.
And like I said, getting into this late model deal and stuff this year, I've got 6 races, under my belt. This year with the car and stuff that we picked up, my car owner, Jose Moran, we formed Moran Kahanic Motorsports this year, and now I ain't gonna lie, I've fallen in love with the late model deal. It's a blast. It's something new, and they haul ass too.
So I have to ask you, Ray Allen. I mean, so many people say, when you're racing, you go to the limit. I mean, people would always tell me, you drive it to the limit. You go to uncomfortable. You go to the uncomfortable feeling. Man, I would think in a damn sprint car, the whole damn race had to be like that, wouldn't it? I mean, where's the comfortable part of being in the sprint car before you take off?
No, I would have to really go back to, my rookie year and that stuff to really say anything about being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's really, just adjusting to the speed, and there's nothing that compares to a sprint car. There's just nothing that does. Every movement is completely different in a sprint car in comparison to every other class. And that even includes the non-wing sprint car stuff. The non-wing sprint car stuff, is very comparable, to a mod, a late model and whatnot. Granted, it's just a lot of horsepower and no downforce, big old tires, and you just swing her in.
Uh-huh.
It's just really a deal of, who's the ballsiest and who makes the right decisions at the right time and takes care of the race car, makes it through to the end of the race. That's always been my motto. The first thing you got to do to win a race is to finish it. And
yep.
I've been really fortunate to have, the career that I have by staying out of trouble. And I might not be the fastest race car, on the racetrack, but I'll be there at the end. And that's what it takes to win the race.
That's what it's all about. So, Ray, I have to ask you. I know you've done some dwarf cars, some mod light. I drove dwarf cars for a while myself. I think on a smaller scale, right there. When you want to talk about balls, that right there, shit, that's a handful right there.
Yeah, people really don't give the dwarf car and mod light guys enough credit, and I can vouch for that. And I've had plenty of people ask me, what's the hardest car to drive? Most guys think it's the sprint car. Well, that's not necessarily true. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, the dwarf car and mod light deal is the toughest thing to drive, in my opinion, just for the fact that, there's a lot of horsepower for that little bitty car, and they are darty. Everything is such quick movement. Yep. And they can get out from under you in a hurry. So especially if you have an ill handling race car, they're a handful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to go back and talk about racing with the Gulf South and ASCS stuff. Is it harder to prepare for a touring series when is it just the travel that makes it difficult, or is it just part of the show when you decide that that's what you want to do when you start running with the touring series?
No, the toughest thing with doing that, really and honestly, is your prep work. You gotta have all your spares and everything in line and things of that nature, and everything's got to gel, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Everything's kind of got to take its place. And, I've had my bad years and stuff. And what I considered a bad year is I went, a season with one win and it seemed like I just couldn't get over the hump to get another win. And But then you'll have your good years, where you just can't seem to do anything wrong. And it's like, I mean, my last full year that I ran the sprint car, or the ASCS Gulf South region, was in 2017. And from Memorial Day weekend to the end of the season, our worst finish was second. We just went on a tear.
Nice.
And I had 2 DNFs that were in that mix, from Memorial Day to the end of the year. But those 2 races that I had the DNFs, I was taken out by a lap car leading the race.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those years where you just couldn't do anything wrong. Everything was going right. You had that confidence, and that's, believe it or not, that's probably one of the biggest things that wins races.
Yep.
Is when your things are going good and the driver has confidence. Man, it's just like nothing can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest things is to be successful when you're doing a touring series or on a regional deal or anything, is you can't let this bad night carry over to the next night. It's always got to be a fresh slate and starting over. And if you let those things, irritate you, it really starts to dig at the team as a whole, and things start getting really tough, and you start questioning, your abilities as a driver, and you start questioning everything. Mm-hmm. So it can really grill you down to the ground.
Yeah, I found many times where that confidence is gone, and I mean it shows up in the performance. You drive cautious, you're going to wreck. So I mean that's definitely a big part of that. So Ray, with all of the sprint cars, these late models, but the sport mod, you're a national champion in the sport mod. Your thoughts on those? I mean, they're so damn popular. They're everywhere. They came in and took away a little bit from the modified. So how is it when you jump into a sport mod compared to driving those high horsepower, other vehicles?
Well, the only thing that I mean, comparison wise to me is, you're getting in the stop moving race cars, what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's stock now.
Yeah.
But man, the technology in that class has developed so much over the years. My last full year that I ran a sport mod, up to this year, was in 2008. And we had a hell of a year that year. We won 22 features that year with the sport mod.
Damn.
And, but golly, everything has changed from that time to now. It just seems like the class is getting more and more and more like the modified, style racing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, you got all these shocks and stuff that are being built by, professional shock builders, and there's, certain valvings and compression and rebounds. It just, there's so much advancement from 08 to now. But what I was getting to on that side of it, so the horsepower to weight ratio is about the same as the late model. Now, you don't have as much horsepower as a late model, but you're on that little bitty tire.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat the same comparison when you're trying to hook the stuff up. You just don't have the same moving parts. So I can tell you this, I'm probably, one of the few race car drivers that, will jump from class to class to class. And I'm what I call myself a race car whore. If that thing's got a steering wheel and a gas pedal, I'll race it.
Hell yeah, I love it.
So let's talk about your late model program. You said you got to run a handful of races this year, and you really enjoyed it. And so now, what's the plans for 2021? Are you going to try to race that more? Are you going to try to race the limited, or try to hop back in a sprint car? What's part of the game plan for 2021 for you?
Well, kind of funny that this is all kind of being brought up today. Marvin and I actually talked today, which he's been my partner and stuff in the sprint car deal. He owns the motor and the rig, and then it was all my racing equipment. And he and I had talked a little bit today about, maybe trying to come back and running some select races this coming season. And he's also got a wing modified that he's been slowly putting together about the last year and a half, and that gets pretty much going to be done and ready to go for this coming year. So we kind of talked a little bit about doing that. My plan for the late model and the sport mod is, we're a small budget team, and this deal is being completely ran off of, Jose Moran and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple of, sponsors as far as help goes, but no money. It's product stuff
Sure.
and help there and whatnot. So we're going to pick and choose, select races to go to with the late model, which one of the main things I wanted to do was to get a big open motor to where we could go hit some of the bigger paying races and have something that would be competitive and to be able to have a shot at making a show and then racing from there. So we actually purchased a motor here this week. So we're going to go run some comp races, some Lucas races, and I know for sure at least one World Outlaw late model race. But like I said, it's going to be on the select deal with the sport mod. It's kind of going to go back to, we're just going to try to chase just the bigger paying races with that. If Jose, decides he wants to try to go out and have a little fun on the Saturday night, then, we can throw him in the sport mod or we're even in talk right now and in the works of possibly just getting a crate motor as well, because there's quite a few big paying crate races to go to within driving distance.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
me personally, I'm not so much into the crate racing myself. Not hating on it or nothing. I prefer something with some horsepower, to be honest with you. I'm just, I guess, spoiled rotten when it comes to that. And I just want something that's going to haul ass.
Yeah, I can imagine jumping into one of those. It's like, shit, you got the thing to the floor and you're like, okay, when are we going? I mean, I can only imagine what that would feel like. I saw a picture of that motor on social media. That looks like a bad son of a bitch right there. I think that one right there is going to do you some good.
I hope so, man. I'd been shopping around for a few months and trying to find the right deal. Like I said, when you're on a budget like we are, you really got to be selective and especially when you're buying, something used like that. And I ran across this deal. It seemed like the right fit and definitely was in the budget. And the last engine builder to have touched the motor was Cornet, and they're definitely a high-end engine builder in the late model game. And so that was kind of the selling point, and big enough cubic inch. We knew it, ought to be definitely between the 850 to 900 horsepower range. So man, I think we ought to jump on this thing. We have a shot to be able to go race some of these races.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back and talk about your driving style. Obviously, you definitely have a big set of balls to drive this cars that you drive, more so than most. But from your driving style as a racer, do you enjoy starting from the pole and smoking everybody's ass, or is it more rewarding for you to have to start in the back and work your way up through the field?
It's always more rewarding to come through the field, and definitely it's a lot more fun that way. When you can, have a race car that does what you want and when you want it to, and then you're able to do your job as a driver that puts on a show for the fans, and that's what we do this for. I mean, granted, I love racing no matter if I got a crowd or not,
right?
But it definitely means everything when the crowd is there.
Yeah.
And without fans being at the races, what the hell do we do it for other than just talking crap to our buddies, So I like having the fans, and I've been really fortunate to, some of my races that I've won where, I don't know if y'all are even aware of this, but some of the ASCS races that I won at Baytown, it was at the time when they were giving away all of the grandstand tickets.
Wow.
And basically what they were doing is they just charged, I don't remember if it was $10 or $20 per car load to come in, So they charged for parking, but free admission. And man, I tell you what, there was standing room only at a couple of the ASCS races that I won there. And that was neat. I mean, it's not quite the magnitude of people as like going to the Knoxville Nationals. Cause I've been there, in that atmosphere, but damn, for there to be that many people there and to win a race and to hear the crowd and the fans after the races, and man, it was just a neat deal.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is the Christmas edition, and we're like, so what do tracks want for Christmas? That is a great freaking idea right there. I like that a lot.
Fans.
Yeah, just get them in there. So let me ask you this, and this will kind of be away from you, but so man, we're seeing factory stocks everywhere. The resurgence of factory stocks. Your thoughts on that class, man? That's another one, man. That sucker goes all around the country, and there's just tons of them.
Absolutely, that class has grown leaps and bounds over the last few years, and man, I tell you what, every one of the dang factory stock races that I've seen, which granted, and most of your Saturday night races and stuff are always pretty good.
Yeah.
But man, the horns come out, during those money races.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you what, there's been some knockdown drag out races and some damn good shows, and some of it's a little overboard. Some of these guys, it's like winning the Indy 500 for some of them, and
Sure.
and it shows. But it's definitely entertainment, and you get your money's worth at the gate. When you sit down and watch a big money race with those factory stocks, you're gonna get your money's worth just in that.
No doubt.
So you're a longtime dirt racer, right? We talk about it on the show a lot about how there was always the I'm a dirt fan and I don't like anything else, or I'm an asphalt fan and I don't like anything else. And now you got some of the crossover. You got the NASCAR Cup Series coming to dirt. And you see some of the like Kyle Larson running the local stuff now going back up to Cup. Is racing as a whole more unified than it ever has been, or is there still that division between, well, I'm a dirt racer versus I'm an asphalt racer?
No, I personally think there's still the division, and the reason why I feel that way is a lot of it is mainstream media. It's that I hate to say it this way, but I mean, and most of us guys, even from my era and earlier, everybody wants to get to the Cup side or the Indy side, and most of it's because those guys are doing this thing professionally and they're making a healthy living doing it.
Yep.
But the thing about that is, in my opinion, there's so many more talented racers across this country than what race on asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
And most of your asphalt guys, and I say that, somewhat lightly, but stern, most of your asphalt guys can't transition back to dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Versus your guys coming from dirt to the asphalt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I personally think that there's a hell of a lot more talent, that races on dirt on your every Saturday night racing than what you see on Sunday on the TV.
Yeah.
So that's where I think like the unity, is divided at is, it's like they're the pros and whatnot. And we're basically, the college team.
Yeah.
But your guys that love asphalt racing, that's what they live, eat, and breathe, and same for us dirt guys. But I tell you what, there's a lot of guys that came off of asphalt that I know of that had transitioned to dirt, and they throw rocks at the asphalt track now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of your choice and what you're into.
Yeah.
I personally, like I said, if I could have ever made it on asphalt, it would have been for nothing other than, one of my racing heroes, which is Tony Stewart. I raced on asphalt, paid the bills for my dirt racing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think so much of it is, lastly, Ray Allen. I mean, I think we got guys like you. I mean, you've tested the waters. You've been, at that. You've done the World of Outlaws. You've done all of this. But there's so many guys like we talk about, like yourself, and even on the asphalt side, guys like Bubba Pollard and all these other people, where you're in a place right now where you're doing what you're doing it extremely well, and you're happy. And it's like it's a premier point for all of you guys right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of this, goes to, the racing that we get, and the racetracks and stuff that we get to go to, which, it's kind of been on the downfall. But it seems like, we got a few good promoters and stuff they're around the Houston area. And I consider even down, Corpus Christi being a Houston considered track as,
yep.
it's within driving distance for us to be able to go race at. And we got good promoters and stuff around this area that are doing great things. I mean, hell, Owen Pittman has done a hell of a job this year.
Yeah.
And man, I'm a big fan of Owen. I'm first time I just got to sit down and meet and talk with Owen, not necessarily meet, but talk with him and get to kind of know him, was actually at a Chili Bowl this year. I was up racing Chili Bowl and this January, and man, we just ran into him and a couple other guys at a casino after the races were over one night. And man, I tell you what, we had a large time, I can tell you that.
Nice.
And it was one of those deals where I've had an opportunity, since then to get to know Owen a lot more this year and to see what he's done with that racetrack and the way he's treated his racers and guys that even come in from out of town. And he did the deal of, you bring me the cars, I'll pay you more money. Yeah. And I tell you what, that speaks volume, to a racer. And that is what called me, going down to Edna, a few times this year was, like I said, he treated the racers fairly. There was no games, and you bring the cars, I pay the money.
Yeah.
And that's why he won the Promoter of the Year deal. He did a hell of a job, and not taking anything away from,
sure. Yeah.
From Marianne and H and Stevie, and they did a hell of a job at their racetracks this year as well. It's just like I said, it was a good year this year for what I call South Texas racing, and I'm looking forward to see what next year brings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be super exciting, and of course, you won the Clash, and I mean that was really cool to get to talk to you there after that event there at Edna. So a great year, and man, we are looking forward. Man, I can't wait. Like I said, I like the looks of that motor, man. I can't wait to see what's coming up for you in 2021.
Man, I appreciate it, and like I said, I hope things go really well for us. I know Jose and myself are pretty pumped up, for what we're going to get to try to do this year, and like I said, we're gonna chase whatever races that we can, fit in our schedule and our budget, and do what we can. And same thing with Marvin and I. We hadn't put anything, down on concrete, just yet. Like I said, we just even talked about it today. So
yeah,
we're gonna try to put us some schedule and stuff down. I know my fiance will be happy with that because it just seems like from week to week, it's like, where are you racing this week? Are you racing this week? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try like hell, to put some type of schedule down so
yeah,
we know what we're gonna do and where we're gonna race and what we're gonna race. And like I said, it's part of being a race car whore. If that thing's got a steering wheel and gas pedal, I'm gonna go race.
You damn right, my man. That is what it's all about. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, hell, even speaking of that, one of my racing heroes.
Yeah.
And I talked today as Lawrence Mecklenchek. I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Watching him race at Big H. And anyways, long story short, my sport mods parked, right now, trying to get everything ready for next season. And Stevie and them threw up that other race there, the bash at the beach or something like that. And anyways, him and I were talking, and I was like, man, ought to find me a ride or whatever for that deal. He said, well, tell you what, how about you just come up and run my car? And
boom.
So that's looking like probably going to be down there or whatever to drive the number 87 car. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Oh man, we got to play our little news thing here. See, there you go. Breaking news right there. Breaking news, man. That is super, man. Now, I'm going to get my ass there. It's going to be good. That is going to be good. Ray Allen Kaholnik, man, appreciate the time, dude. Thanks for taking time on a Monday. I know holiday weeks are busy, and looking forward to another exciting year, dude. It's been a pleasure to watch you.
I appreciate it, guys, and thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
You got it, man. Absolutely. Holler anytime, dude.
All right, man. Thank you.
You got it. Take care. There he is, Ray Allen Kaholnik. Race car whore.
Yep.
The man himself. It's going to be weird saying that at a racetrack when he comes out.
Yeah, it will be kind of awkward.
Yeah. Here comes the race car whore. He dropped a couple of on us with sprint car stuff and driving for for Lawrence. Lawrence is on here watching too. You see him lurking right there. He was just kind of.
He was waiting to see if it was going to come true.
He
right?
was just kind of
going to spoil the beans.
Just
so
kind of
speak.
sitting there watching. Of course, yeah, good stuff that we have coming in. Yes, we would love to figure out some sort of super street stock class. We'll get to all of that here at some point. But we're going back to the hotline, back to back, man. It is Monday night badasses right here as we jump in. And we've got, I mean, we got one of our guys here from Central Texas. It is the one and only, as you say, the man, the myth, the legend, the great Don Painter. Donald, how are you, man?
I'm good, guys.
Absolutely, man. So we asked Ray Alcoholic, you ready for the holidays? You ready for Christmas? You got everything bought and put under the tree and stockings hung with care and all that good shit?
Oh yeah, it's all done. You know, it's easy online nowadays.
I just did that today. Well said.
Ordered some presents for Elizabeth.
You can be late and still be on time.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Amazon still got the 2-day delivery. That was really good. But so Don, before you came over, Rod and I were talking about how long you've been racing. Obviously, you and your dad have been racing forever. So for the people that for some reason don't know who you are, talk about the racing that you did early on with your dad and how long y'all been in it.
Well, I don't know how long he raced. He raced at different times, but I started in 78, but only got to run a few races.
Yeah.
And then we built my own car because I had a car a guy had given me. But funny story about that is, second night out, I got put in the wall, and Dad destroyed it in the destruction derby so that I wouldn't have a car the next year. Because I was a senior in high school, and he wanted me to finish school and not be distracted. So that's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's talk about Gene. I mean, when we talk about, Gene and Kay both. I mean, Kay for putting up with y'all's asses all this time, but for, your dad, I never got to see him race, but I've gone back. You know how I do my nostalgia stuff. But man, what a racer! What a racer was Gene Painter.
Yeah, he won a lot of stuff over the years. He ran a little bit of everything, modifieds, late models, got into the sport, the modifieds, these modifieds, but he ran the wing modifieds for a while too. So, but he did a little bit of all of it too.
Yeah.
So, Don, you've ran both dirt and asphalt. We were just talking to Ray Allen about the transition between guys going from dirt to asphalt and back to dirt, stuff like that. How hard was that transition from when you were running, especially even when you started running the modified on asphalt there for a while? I mean, what's the transition like? Is it easier to go from dirt to asphalt, or is it easier to go from asphalt back to dirt? I mean, as somebody that's done both, which way is easier?
It was probably harder for me to go to asphalt because it takes a different discipline. You can't overdrive the corner, and you just got to be patient. And that's hard to do. From the dirt car, you can drive it in as far as you think you can, you know. But asphalt's a little different world. It's harder to do for somebody like me, I guess.
Yeah. I would think on dirt, you're balls to the wall, you're going, where with asphalt, now I don't mean this in a bad way at all. I mean, asphalt, it's a little bit more about finesse. I mean, you get into a rhythm where on dirt, it's just go. There's no waiting. You just take off.
Well, that's what I love about dirt is if the lane in front of you is taken, you can find a way around maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Where on asphalt, you're kind of stuck there maybe if it's the lane you got to be in to pass or if it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either root the guy out or find a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've seen plenty of rooting around at the dirt track too, but so let's talk about the modifieds there for a little bit. You've run a lot of everything, and you've been in the sport mods for a while. Is the class getting too expensive for what it is? Are they starting to get the same price as the big mods? I mean, is it almost to the point where that's why everybody you see dropping down to the factory stocks?
Well, believe it or not, factory stocks are right where sport mods are. It costs about the same to run a factory stock now.
Wow.
They're getting up there too. A roller's, $15,000, but it's gotten crazy. You're right. The sport mods have gotten pricier, yes, but they've kind of stabilized as long as they don't make a bunch of rule changes. But it's not a cheap game to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that is the thing. The one thing that I do see, and I know that you've got your factory stock, but I love that class because, I mean, I'm old. I love the way that they look. I mean, I just love the way they look and they sound. But it does seem that it's gotten to a point, and we see this. I mean, you've done this for a long time. I mean, you see where a class hits a point and it gets to where it kind of hits its ceiling. But I don't think the factory stock is there, though, because we keep seeing more guys filter in and lots of cars showing up for these shows.
Well, you've also got a lot of big money shows for these factory stocks, and that's driving a little of it. You know, everybody wants to get involved because of that, and it's a fun class. They're fun to drive, but you just can't. You know, they do drive different than a sport mod. You can't overdrive the corner with one of these.
Yeah.
So Don, let's talk about the year's racing. Obviously, you raced at Kyle, you raced at Cotton Bowl there for a good bit of time. I mean, do you have any plans to travel, or are you still like having to run the same weekly show like you have been for the last couple of years?
Well, when we were racing, I grew up. We came to Austin in '79, so I drove back and forth to Waco every Friday night,
Yep,
for years. And it gets old, going down the road. And tried some other races, went to some big shows, and I like running the big shows. It's fun, but then family and business and time, all that slows you down, and it's hard to do it all, I guess. But I love Cotton Bowl because it's close and it's easy. It's 45 minutes. It's the best thing I've had. We're used to traveling 2 hours or more to do anything. So It was kind of nice when Cotton Bowl came along.
Yeah. And Don, talk about those old days, because we always talk about, we were talking earlier about with the pavement where you had Corpus and San Antonio and Austin, but back in those days you had, Bobby mentioned Waco, you had Stars and Stripes. I mean, there was a little bit of that up here too, and we've kind of lost everything other than Cotton Bowl. Yeah,
and that's why I try to support as much as I can. Because as long as this flits close for me is easy, because we're used to traveling 2 or 3 hours to go anywhere. And I know a lot of guys are doing that every week, but it gets old. You get older and you realize, what, I just want to race one place. I'll go somewhere once in a while, but it's just easier because you got, business and kids and everything else in the way sometimes.
No doubt.
So Don, let's talk about all you and Terry Cherner and you guys. All your stickers are all on each other's cars. Talk about your relationship with Terry. It seems like Terry. Obviously, when I was racing back in the day, I got help from both of you guys with Browning Auto Parts and with Terry's Body Shop. But talk about that whole gang. It's you and Steve Sims and all of that group together. Talk about how much fun you guys have racing with each other.
Well, we do, and we try to help each other. And Terry's a big help when one of us tears a car up. He fixed my factory stock here a few weeks ago because it got tore up at Texana.
Yep.
And but he always does it and takes care of us and just tells you to keep his name on the car. He's just easy like that. But we all just try to help each other, and we don't really race against each other as much as we could because we're all running different classes. But it's fun.
So, Don, I have to ask you, anybody that comes on this show that raced at Texas World, I always have to ask, talk about those days, you guys with those super stocks. It's like, I remember when Neil Upchurch had that idea, it's like, let's take the super stocks out there. the late models ran, and you guys get out there with these stock cars having to tape shit down every which way. Man, what days those were.
Oh, it was fun, but 40 cars out there at once, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And I didn't know road course racing would be that much fun.
Yeah.
It really was a lot of fun. And we worked hard. We wouldn't run there but twice a year, but man, we worked our ass off getting the car ready.
Yeah, I bet.
I didn't run asphalt, but now I'm in, and I'm still running dirt at the same time. And I would go get that. We worked all, 6 months getting that car ready we worked on aerodynamics. We tried to find ways to be faster. And we were pretty fast. I just never had the right luck at the right time.
Yeah.
So Don, talk about 2021. Is it going to be the same thing? You're going to run full time at Cotton Bowl? You're going to run both cars full time, or are you going to run one more than the other? I guess it depends on how much the factory stocks get wild and crazy over there.
I'm going to run Cotton Bowl all I can. I don't want to. I backed away the last couple of years from points because I just don't want to be involved anymore. So we miss a night here and there, kind of on purpose. We go, we either take a trip or we find somewhere we want to go, and I just, don't want to be in that stuff anymore. It locks you down,
Mm-hmm.
where you really can't go. And I want to run some of these big factory stock shows if I can get the time.
Yeah. So let's talk about CBS. H and Marianne, I mean, I know the schedule's out and all of that, but they really do just a great job to get folks in the stands and a great team out there that comes out. And you guys, it is, every time that I go there, it's like a homecoming because it's all of the folks that we've all known for so long.
True. A lot of your asphalt guys would come our way because they don't have anything else either, and they've learned that it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as stressful as the asphalt, where you got to do all the practicing and all the time involved just tweaking on it. Dirt car can be a little off, but you still can get to the front.
Right.
So talk about running the dry slicks. I know Rodney said that he had his most success there when he was running the Dwarf on the dry slicks, and one time they interviewed Tommy Gural after he won a race over there, and it was like they said, "How did you make it happen?" He's like, "I just ran it like an asphalt track." So when it gets really dry and slick, is it one of those you got to slow down in the corner and let the corner come to you, and then kind of point it off and go? I mean, or is running a dry slick totally different than in my mind right there?
Well, you've got to tighten it up a bunch. You got to get the car to work on that and keep it straight most of the time, because it just doesn't. They don't like being sideways when they're like that, when the track's like that. But to a certain point, a dirt car is always sideways anyway.
Right.
But it's always a fight because there's always changes. These factory stocks and sport mods the shock packages and this and that are changing all the time, and somebody's always finding something that's faster.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't keep up, you wind up being a fourth or fifth instead of having a shot at it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more competitive in it with 8 or 10 cars that can win every night than just 4 or 5.
Right, and that's
it's a lot more competitive now in all the classes, I think, because of that.
Yeah,
there's just not that 1 or 2 cars that dominate.
And that's the beauty of it. I mean, that really is the beauty of it. So your thoughts? I mean, you've done this for a long time. I said you've actually been racing longer than racing's been around, is what I said earlier.
Oh, come on now. That's my dad. That was my dad, not me.
Yeah. It's funny. When I call guys the great veteran, guys are like, "What the hell do you mean by that?" I'm like, "Well, you've done it a while." So
I figured you were looking for, you're really searching to get to talk to me.
No, man, this is Christmas time, dude. We have to have true Christmas presents for folks. So,
okay.
so for you, I mean, in all the years that you've done it, I mean, the state of dirt, we see things that move around so much. I mean, because it was the modified. There was only the modified. Here came the sport mods, and then we saw the sport mods fall off a little bit, and now you got these factory stocks, and so the state of everything right now, like for what we're dealing with in Texas, tracks have to work together because there's so damn many of them. Your thoughts on the state of dirt track racing in general at this point, in the eyes of a true championship veteran?
I think it's pretty healthy, but I think if we're not careful, we'll price ourselves out of it, maybe.
Yep.
The price of these things, if we don't, there are some things they could limit, there's things they could do, but, I think the shock on these limited, they ought to just come up with a package and say, there it is, boys, that's all you get to do, and everybody's on the same thing. But that's, back when, like my dad, you had to make parts. You didn't get to go call up a speed shop and pick it up, You had to go make stuff.
Right.
And it took a lot of ingenuity to figure out how to do that stuff, and then guys figured it out. But nowadays, it's pick up the phone and buy some speed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Don, you've been around a long time. Obviously, we've been joking about that. But in terms of, a lot of people thought that the factory stock was going to be this entry-level class. And here, like you said, it costs almost the same to run a sport mod. Is the days of the old GM, your old Chevrolet Monte Carlos and your Regals and your Cutlasses and stuff like that, even though that's what the factory stocks are supposed to look like? I mean, is the days of having that as like a bomber class, are those days over? Is the only entry-level class going to be these sport compacts now?
It appears to be. I mean, for several years there, they had sport mods listed as an entry-level class, and they're not. They weren't then, but they, it's crazy. We can look at our lap times, and we're faster than the modified some nights on the slick night. But part of that's the car we run on, too.
Yeah. And I think
it's not entry level. Neither class is entry level. No.
Yeah, no. And I think one of the things, Don, you can actually relate to this more even as a business owner there with Browning Auto Parts. I mean, and I know it gets hard because, like, when we talk about a quote-unquote stock class, you can't find stock body panels and stock A-arms and stock all of this other stuff, the aftermarket stuff. But at some point, you got to draw the line. And shocks really does seem to be the thing. I know on the pavement side, it killed a bunch of shit. But it does seem to be the one thing that, man, it's a driving force that drives prices up and just hurts the whole thing across the board.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, shocks are one of the biggest things. We all do it because we want to be fast.
Sure.
And you'll spend, $1,000 for a set of shocks, and then 6 months later they're not the thing you got to have. You got to have just $1,000. And it's just crazy sometimes. But I don't know. I think if we pay attention to some of the product stuff that we're doing, maybe find some way to fix these rules a little bit, it might help us all.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of rules, is it as a racer, do you mainly stick with IMCA, or is it now going to be opened up a little bit with this new presence of USRA coming into South Texas? Is it going to be one of those wars, or is it going to be one of those where it's like, well, some nights you want to race this racetrack with this sanction, other nights you're going to race this track with this sanction? As long as I'm assuming that it's just you as a racer wants to race, but I think it's going to depend on if you don't have to change a lot between the two sanctions.
Well, that's the beauty. When IMCA came along, that was the nice part, because when we ran Waco, they would make the rules where you couldn't go anywhere else, basically.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep you there because if you tore your car up, you might not make it back next week. And when IMCA came along, it made it a whole lot easier where you could go anywhere, basically, and unload and race.
Mm-hmm.
And that was nice. But that they finally realized that they could get more cars doing that if they just leave the rules the same, basically.
Yeah.
But now you got USRA, and they're really not that much different, but there is little things that are different.
Mm-hmm.
Some little things that cost money and some little things that'll make the car a little bit better. But, then we got to decide whether we're going to spend the money to do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's always a curveball. There's always a curveball in all that.
Well, they say that the racers are their own worst enemy because they want.
Right.
But then it costs them money, and they raise hell about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Bobby, I think you, back in your day, there were Toms, and I mean, Don probably remembers this. I mean, the racers wanted to save money. You get them a cheaper tire, and then they were bitching about the speeds being slower.
Yeah, they hated it. When we switched to those recaps, man, everybody kept saying them. They came over from dirt. The biggest problem was the tires were so expensive because they had to buy a new set of tires. But then when we switched them to that recap, they all hated it because they're like, these are hockey pucks. We can't do anything with it. So, it's like we tried to save the racers a boatload of cash, and then they just complained about it.
Right. Well, that's where, like I said, we're our own worst enemy most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Don, so Lawrence Miklicek checks in on the Facebook thing, and he says he watched you when he was a kid when you raced at Big H. What do you think about that?
He was a kid, too. He and I showed up there to race Big H when I started running some late models back then, and that's how I met Lawrence and Howard and all those guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how cool is it to see these guys still doing this? And I know we lose racers and they pass away, whatever, they get away from the sport. I mean, I know a lot of folks have to get away to be able to get away, but how cool is it that we do have? I mean, there's so many guys that have done it for a long time that are still actively a part of racing around here.
Oh, it's nice to, Lawrence and I still talk, Howard and I still talk. We just talk about whatever when we see each other, but it's kind of cool to talk to each other, and we've all been somewhere, different. Mm-hmm. We've all had a different path, however we got there. But, Lawrence could have went big time at one time, but he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to get away from Houston and Corpus area. And, but that was his choice, He didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And that's totally understandable. And it's a different, so how, last question, I promise. So how different is it for you that to watch how everything has evolved? Social media has changed the sport at every level. To see how that has changed from the days when it just seemed so much easier when we raced all the time. Now we don't race all the time. We race every other week or whatever it is. just the shift in this sport. It is just so different from even when I was first exposed to this in the late 70s.
Well, I believe it or not, I kind of like the every other week off. It gives me time to go do something else too.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like anything else. I mean, I'm one of the old guys watching these younger kids do it, and as long as I think I'm competitive, but I've told a couple people if I'm not, you don't need to tell me, because I don't want to do this if I'm going to look like a fool out there. So, I don't want to, I'm sorry, but I'm not a guy that can run 10th or 15th and have fun.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm just too competitive, I guess. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
But if I got a chance to at least have a chance out there, that's all I can ask,
Mm-hmm.
It's up to a little luck and the right circumstances, and we might get lucky, we might get in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
absolutely.
It's changed a lot, yes, and social media is probably our worst enemy at most of the time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take much to start a bad conversation about something, and it just goes out of control.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You kind of wish people would take a step back and think about it before they do that,
Yeah.
But the immediate response is what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Think before you hit send. So
that's it.
So Painter, all of your years, I mean, can you narrow down? I mean, your couple of favorite memories, your favorite wins. I mean, I know there've been so many, and some of those. I love what you did for Gene's birthday when he wound up in a car again. I think, is that what happened there? I mean, just so many great memories there for the Painters. What's it been for you?
It's been a lot of them. I probably couldn't narrow it down to one or two, but that one was pretty good because he told me he wanted to race one more time so he could say he raced in 6 decades.
Sweet.
And I said, okay. And believe it or not, we had to get Brett Root to give us a pass because Dad still owed him a fine from years ago over a motor claim. And he wouldn't pay it, so he quit running IMCA.
Oh, my God.
We had to get a pass, and Big Mike helped us with that and got him to say, okay, he can run one night, but if he wants to run more, he's got to pay. So that was his birthday present. He turned 76 that year, I think.
Oh, man.
75 or 6, I believe.
Yeah.
And he did well. He wound up turning. They said it looked like he was a little timid in the beginning, and somebody clipped him and turned him around, and it's like the fire was lit suddenly.
Yeah.
And he took off.
Yeah.
And he did well that night. I think you could still do it if circumstances were right,
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. My dad and I always laugh because it was like so some of our first friends when we got to the competition side of this were you guys, the Painters, Donnie Moore, Jim Pallas, the Krudimskis. I mean, we fell into this. It's like how do you not stick with this sport when you fall into these great people?
There's been a lot of great guys in this business or this racing world. I mean, there's, they come and go and disappear for a while, and then they come back, and we all have to take a break, or we all had situations we couldn't race at the time, whatever. But most of them still come back around. I think the itch never goes away.
Nope. Never does. We all get pissed off and quit, and we always come back every single time.
Yeah. Well, I had to quit just stop for a couple of times over family stuff or money or whatever, and I had to stop.
Yeah.
Until it got better. But
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I can tell you what. So talk about Browning. I think you were moving, weren't you? You moving to a different location? Is that done? I don't get out that way.
We moved last October. We've been there over a year now, and October was a year.
Okay.
But we're not in our new building yet. They're still working on that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That deal was supposed to be. I was supposed to have a building up and ready to walk into, and it didn't work out. That part didn't work out.
So how has that business model changed? I mean, it used to be, I'm going to the junkyard, is what we all used to say when we're going.
Wait. We're not a junkyard.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So
the junkyard is down the street where you take your scrap or the refrigerator and
that's exactly
that stuff.
That's
the scrap yard there.
That's exactly right. That's what I was getting to say. I mean, it used to be, so nowadays, like we were talking about, to find the parts for race cars, I would think mainly nowadays your inventory is like, these modern day cars that we see laying around. You probably don't have any.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No old stuff laying around.
Oh, I had some, but they might have been picked over. But nowadays you can't even buy them because they're bringing $8,000 to $1,000 for just a body and a frame.
Wow.
For a Monte Carlo or something.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, unless you're going to use it all, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
But I used to buy them $200 or $300. Yeah, I can sell pieces off of them and get what I want off of them. But those days are gone. They're getting worse because you can't find the cars as much.
Yeah.
They're getting harder to find.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. Well, Donald, dude, Merry Christmas, and thanks for jumping on. I know it's kind of last minute there, but I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I got to get somebody that's gonna be able to talk about racing, both asphalt and dirt. Got to find somebody who's done it for a while. I said, I got to call my man Painter. That's the guy.
Yeah. You couldn't get Lawrence to do it?
Oh, he's been on here before. He's done it before.
He's been on here twice, I think.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you guys. Happy New Year.
Absolutely, my friend. Look forward to seeing you in 2021, seeing you back in Victory Lane again.
Okay, man.
All right, buddy.
Good talking to y'all.
Take care.
See you, Don.
There he is, Don Painter. And that's a guy when you do talk about, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to be clear about with Don is because you do talk about the crossover, and Donald has done it, I think, 3 different times where he's done from asphalt to dirt and vice versa a shitload of times. And I guarantee you, if we had a sport mod class in Houston, he'd probably do it again.
Probably.
Well, no. He says too far. He says too far. So he'd probably forget, though. Probably wouldn't be that far.
He'd probably tried at least once.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
At least once.
But he and Gene Painter, and of course Kay, Gene's wife, Don's mom, Kay, she's the one that puts up with all their crazy asses, and she has just been a saint. And yes, absolutely, my dad Ben Rodriguez checks in there. His choice gives the call out there. And seriously, that is one of the guys there. I remember vividly. We would many times going from Austin to Lockhart, we'd stop over at ABC and talk to Gene and Kay because they ran the place. And man, those painters done it a long time.
Yeah, they've done it a long time. And like I said, I was able to get parts and pieces for the high five from Don, and it's like I told the spouse the other day, I've got the itch to go back to racing, and I don't know why. Yeah. I just have the itch to get back in another car. Whether or not I'm going to have somebody build one, I'm going to buy one. I don't know what the case may be. I just feel like getting back into a race car. And, I'm sure I'm going to have to hit up, Browning to try to get some parts and pieces. It looks like I'm not going to go factory stock route because those are just too damn expensive. It looks like I'm Metro stock or Eco stock in Houston and maybe a Sport Compact at Cotton Bowl. It's kind of looking where it's going to be back again, build another high five, get going. But by the way, if anybody's got a yard cart for a 9-year-old and I don't have to travel too far and it runs, trying to get a belated Christmas present for the nephew. So, don't need any racing go-karts. Don't need to get into that. But if anybody got a yard cart from a reasonable drive for a reasonable price, hit me up on Facebook and we'll talk about it.
Or as they call that class at the Bristol Nationals, the Hornets.
The Hornets? Is that what the Hornets?
And I do like, speaking of that, I did post the other day, I like how New Smyrna actually calls the Sport Compacts, whatever you want to call them, the 4 cylinders, they actually call them bombers. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is, like Painter said right there, that is your bombers. I mean that is the
entry-level class. So.
Yeah, there are no big cars. So the Christmas list, we saw some sort of something, not a super stock on pavement, which I totally agree. But I can tell you, because that's been tossed around, the obvious answer to that, and this is where need a lot of feedback. I know it's actually been thrown out before on this program. The clearest answer right there, because we've talked to Ray Allen Kaholnick and Don Painter tonight, is a factory stock. A factory stock, transition it over, change your springs, change your shocks, change all of that over to pavement. That's your answer. But at the same time, I've had folks that say, no, we don't want that. And, of course, it's guys that maybe have one of these where they want something more of a pro stock, what Houston had before. And I've actually gotten my 4 eyes on the pro stock rules, which I wasn't familiar with. The chassis, the metric chassis, all of that's somewhat the same. But the motor thing is the difference because, I mean, the factory size, they're not running headers. I mean, they're running stock exhaust manifolds, and everything is totally Again, I don't know how they go as fast as they do, but that's where the split is with that. So to put that class together, I saw someone posted, I'd love to see like an old super street stock at Houston. Well,
that's still not an entry-level V8 class, though, is it?
Well, but we kind of have that, just they run aftermarket bodies, which is the current super stock, because the current super stock was a super street stock. But we get into all of this where guys want to get in and they want to do all this different shit, and that's why the super stocks are what they are.
Yeah, the super stock started out with, the old school late model bodies, and some of them still ran the Camaros and stuff like that with the Camaro bodies, but then you got the guys that can't quite afford to run an Outlaw that want to run the Outlaw body. So, I mean, it's both guys tonight, Don Painter and Ray Allen Conley, also saying racers are their own worst enemies. And we've said it for years, and it's the God honest truth that racers always want to spend more money to try to save themselves money.
And I was actually, because I was looking at something the other day, and I ran across a program from Speedorama when it was still Speedorama back in 82, I think. I don't remember what year it was, but I was looking at some pictures of late models, and what those were, they were Outlaw bodies. I mean, these were handmade bodies. The chassis was Bob chassis, whatever it may have been. But, I mean, these things, I mean, they had that long nose. They had that big old tall ass with the spoiler on there and all of that. So the Outlaw does kind of take us back. Charlie Cohen was the one from Grand Prairie that had the modern day Outlaw stock. Charlie Cohen had that back in 1980. And Bob Bolin did it. And So that class right there has, I think that the Outlaws, I saw this thing that Speed 51 announced the top 10 Outlaw drivers, and I purposely posted that because John Heil ain't on there, which he should be. He should be. They didn't even look down here, but I think there wasn't any Florida guys on there either, I think, or were there? I mean, maybe there were, but I think that the Outlaw class is something that could be huge, but for that stock class, that's harder than people would believe, because it's been tossed around several different ways, and however you scramble this thing around and whatever you come up with, somebody's going to get left out, and we already have that with the super stocks.
And it's not good, right? There's somebody always, and that's the problem that it is, right? Is there's always somebody that is always left out, and they're the ones that actually are the most boisterous ones.
Sure.
And decidedly, and deservedly so. If I have a race car that gets outlawed because somebody changes the class, I'm gonna be pissed off. It's just the way that it is. That you got the same problem with the Camaro sitting in your front yard, or not in the front yard, in your dad's driveway, that it's too gutted to go back to any kind of stock stuff.
Right.
But yet it's not completely gutted enough to where it can run with the Outlaws or can run with the super street stocks.
And Witchy hits the nail on the head there on the Facebook thing. I mean, seriously, the street stock is the closest thing. It is, or the factory stock is the closest thing to a street stock right now for what we know as a street stock, because you can't go back and develop. Speaking of my dad here, who got called out by Jim Pallas. Jim Pallas said he doesn't want to come out and play. Dad, he's talking to you. Dad mailed me rules from 98, 99, or early 2000s from Kyle back to Austin, and that's all of that is there. All of that is there. You take a couple of different classes, lump them together, and that's what the factory stocks are. And is it a problem that you can buy those aftermarket A-arms and upper and lower? No, that's great. I mean, you have to.
It does make it easier.
Because you can't find them. And I don't know. That's a tough one there. What else did I see there for Christmas stuff? I've lost track there as we were talking to all these guys. But the promotion thing is the other thing that I saw that keeps coming up. And again, a lot of that has to be a two-way street. That has to be the track obviously doing what they need to do. The track is doing a promotion all in and of itself these days by giving us a place to race, because that's the biggest thing right now, because again, all of these tracks are paying leases.
That's the drawback. They're all paying a lease, and it's hard to pay the lease and spend money on advertising and promotions and everything else. And it is a necessary evil by leaps and bounds. You got to have it, because dear God, if you don't have if you don't have the money to help market your racetrack, then you don't have enough money to operate your racetrack.
Right. And pamphlets and posters, all of that is great, but I mean, where were those pamphlets and now posters were those need to be utilized is online. I mean, you need to get those online. I saw Aaron Brungott posted something about how Facebook advertising has gotten expensive as well, which I know it has, because you can run different campaigns on there, and depending how you're trying to target that and how many days you want to do it and your budgets and all that. I mean, I know because we've done it here with this program, but it the best advocate for yourself is going to be your customers. Number one, get them in the door, get them to talk about, get them to bring, we always say several dozen people. Get them to bring more people out. And the whole thing is, I'll tell you where dirt track racing really kicks ass is when I'm going to a dirt track race, and I see this so often where I come up and I'm going down 290 and I run up on a trailer and there's a damn race car sitting right there. Mm-hmm. You can sit right there and follow that thing and it goes right into Cotton Bowl. Or, going the other way, you go down to Waco and it goes right into heart of Texas or South Texas. That's good stuff right there.
Well, and it's getting harder and harder even on dirt to see the open trailers, just like it is on asphalt. It seems like most everybody, regardless of what class you run in asphalt, except for maybe the eco stocks, everybody shows up in a 24-foot enclosed trailer at minimum.
And that's part of the thing that Ray Allen was talking about. We're our own worst. I've been there. When I had the dwarf car, all those guys had a little trailer, so I needed to get one too. And it would have been easier to have an open trailer and figure out a way to get that car there, but all those guys had that, and so it would be in a box and it would just go to the track. Nobody ever saw it. So that's good advertising right there. But the bottom line, friends, is we can say Santa Claus is doing whatever, but we need to support these tracks. We need to do what we can. Whether we as announcers or you guys as fans or whatever your role is. Get out there and sell the product. And if you get a little irritated, like I love Bobby's cold hot dog reference all the time because that is so spot on. If something isn't right, let those emotions kind of cool down. Let those emotions kind of cool down a little bit before you hit that send. Just think about it before you hit the send, because when you hit the send, you are affecting race teams. You're affecting the racetrack. You're affecting so many different things when you hit that send button. Yeah,
and it's just a snowball. Whether you just want your point across that you wanted a hot dog, all it takes is just that cold hot dog to talk about how bad a call was 2.5 years ago during a different management team at the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Social media is a good thing, but it's also the worst possible thing. But there's just got to be a happy medium. You don't have to, just because you don't like it doesn't mean you have to hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's with everything, not just racing, not just social media, but that's with everything.
And there's a reference here. Patrick Kelly checks in and he's talking about the Tal City, about maybe running that on the lower classes at Houston. I would love that. I mean, it says there's, Hoosier is the track tire. Well, I mean, it is somewhat. There's not a corporate.
It's not an official affiliation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just the one that everybody's run. But what we were just talking about, I mean, you've been through this where you put that tire on and you lose speed, and then
they don't like it.
I mean, you guys were. I mean, I remember that was an uproar where guys were pissed off because they lost half a second.
And the cars were fast. I mean,
sure, absolutely.
When we went to Houston with the limited modifieds on asphalt, running the same Hoosier tire that the trucks were running and everybody else. I mean, the top half of our modifieds are running in the bottom half of the late models. Mm-hmm. I mean, their top 5 would have our bottom, the top half of our top 5 would have been the lower half of their top 10.
Yep.
And so then when you put them on the recaps, it costs $60 a piece, and you could run them all year on dirt and asphalt.
Yeah.
I guess on asphalt primarily, then dirt with the dry slick track. Everybody got pissed off saying they hated the tires and wasn't going to run because they didn't like the tires.
And I'm here to tell you, I love when you slow the cars down. I mean, I love it when you slow the cars down because you take a lot of that technology out of there. I mean, I think that Tal City on a super stock, for example, I mean, I think that puts the driver back into it. And I mean, that was the cool part when we in DCRST, when we ran and we'd pack 27, 28 cars and then we ran that tire. Of course, that's a much lighter car, but we'd get out there. Tires were not a factor. You got out there and you raced and you drove. You drove. I had a recap tire that I used in that final season of 2016. I had one recap that we always ran on the right rear with a little bit wider offset tire. We took that tire and wheel combination off the car, and the car was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 nights car ran like hammered cat shit, and we went back out the final night, put that thing back on, and we were back in the 16.7s and running, and should have won the damn race. Chewed up the cord at the end of it, but we ran it for a year and a half. That was a tire I inherited from Butch.
Oh, see, I didn't know it went that far back.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that was an original Butch tire. It sat on their right rear all those years, and it kept getting better. That's it.
But you're not going to get a super stock guy to run a recap. There's no way.
No, and that's part of the problem. It's like, it's too expensive. Well, let's try to save you some money.
Try to save you some money.
But, and again, not to bash racers, but we're just kind of going over the Christmas list here. I mean, obviously we want teams to be able to race, and there's lots of different ways to do that, and these dirt tracks are doing a great job. And Ray Allen never said he was getting a factory stock, by the way. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and it's probably too slow for him.
Yeah, I thought about it for a second. I was going to say, so are you going to get one? But I was like, he's cussed a couple of times. I don't think I want him to cuss directly at me.
Yeah. I mean, real race talk. So he dropped a couple of FCC friendly words, but that's all right. We don't mind.
Yeah, no, I'm totally good with it. But as you saw there, we talked about the World of Outlaws, couple of races there. Then you got the new series coming in there to Cotton Bowl as well. So that's going to be in February. You're going to have all of that. You've got Lawrence is probably still on here. L87, they're doing a winter series.
Yep.
So while we get a little bit of time off, I mean, it's not a whole hell of a lot of time off. And oh, by the way, like we talked on Saturday, I'm pretty excited for Supercross myself.
Yeah, Supercross coming up really, really fast. Really, it's hard to believe that in 6 weeks, less than 6 weeks, we'll have the first race there in Houston.
Yeah, and then we'll New Smyrna's going to crank up in January. They got a race in January, so we're going to be doing this. And enduros, are there enduros? Is there anything?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah,
not this off season.
Yeah. Well, of course, all of this depends on restrictions and so forth and all of that. But that's for another show. That's for another time to be broken down by people at a different pay grade than we are. Oh man, good stuff. Merry Christmas, friends. As we get ready to go, I think we are. What do we say? We are going to do something Monday. We will do something next Monday. So we
don't know what, but we'll do something Monday. Don't know who we'll have on, but we'll think of something.
Yeah. So we'll have another show before we get to 2021. But seriously, guys, Merry Christmas, and remember what the time is all about. I think one of the things about 2020, I know there's a lot of things that sucked, but I think one thing that will hammer home is that we are restricted, and maybe you do get to have that Christmassy feeling where it's not so much about gifts and everything. That's important. I mean, I know that's important, but you get to be one with yourselves, and that's really what this holiday is all about.
Yeah, no, that's what it's about. It's kind of, even if you can't be with your big family, hang out with your close knit extended family and friends, and everybody just take your precautions and try to stay your 6 feet away or whatever the case may be. Find your little quarantine. I've heard that phrase used a little bit. Find your quarantine and hang out with them, or your little quarantine pod. So
yeah,
that's what you got to do to have fun. It's going to be a good time to have a Merry Christmas for everybody.
Hey, go out and see Saturn and Jupiter. Or did that pass?
No, I think that's tonight.
That's tonight.
The Bethlehem Star is what somebody's calling it.
Beautiful, beautiful thing. Thanks to Ray Allen Kaholnick. Thanks to Don Painter. That is #Real Race Talk. We'll have all of that podcast. No horn shows until after the new year, so we'll get all of that for you. We're back next Monday. Friends, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holiday time. It's actually even going to be cool.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's cold right now outside.
Love it. Love it. That is coming up. Enjoy your holiday, friends. We are back on Monday. It is #Real Race Talk from the big-ass state of Texas. Be well, everyone. Be nice to someone. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. For Bobby, I'm Rodney. We gone.